Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I told Gail yesterday I was going to do from that movie Low Down Dirty Shame. Good boy, this shame. Good boy, this shame. Oh, okay, someone said leave it there. Okay. So this is good. It'd be better if it was right here. But I can't do anything about that. All right, guys, just stick with me. Stick with me. Stick with me. Love me through this. Love me through this. All right, so this is good. Okay. All right. Good morning, everyone. So I am Demia Candai, and no, don't change how you are now. Okay, so we're good. Okay, if I can get someone to say yes, I'm good now at 7:28, we can get started. Okay, all right, perfect. Good morning, I'm Demia Candai, filling in for the Gail Dudley, and this is your News in Motion. So today is Wednesday workshop, so we want to get through the news, not get through it because it's an important part of our day, right? So we want to get to the news so we can do a little teaching here at the end, and these are all Gail's notes, and I will try to stay as close to the notes as possible. So it is hard. You guys all know I struggle with being able to come in and out of if I'm presenting. It's hard for me to look at the chat box or whatever. So I want to try to make this, I don't want to cheat you out of a great experience. So I'll try to do both as best I can. So, and of course I'm going to jack everything up off the rip and go out of order, but I just wanted to just kind of take a moment, and we'll talk about it later, but the accident with Tiger Woods, certainly there's a whole segment on it, but gosh, my thoughts and prayers just go out to him, and we just declare healing over his body right now. So we'll get to that story, but the way that it's slated, it's later, but it has been a lead story all morning on news outlets, so I certainly wanted to start with that. So, and we'll come back to that. And I don't know how many of you saw it, and I was watching, you know, when they bring in the jaws of life, that's always just, even the name, you know, good morning, Brenda. Just the name of that, like, who came up with that name? It's eerie. And, you know, it was last year, I think it was in January, that we were mourning the loss of Kobe. So it was just like, oh, Father, please, please, please let this man live and be well. So we'll get to that later. So politics in motion. Security or lack thereof. So the New York Times reporting that top security officials who were at the Capitol told lawmakers of a communication breakdown ahead of January 6th attack. Not that any of us are surprised. 3 former top Capitol security officials and the chief of the Washington police blamed federal law enforcement and the Defense Department on Tuesday for intelligence failures ahead of the January 6th Capitol riot and for slow authorization of the National Guard as the violence escalated. Which we all were watching like, well, when is the National Guard coming in? When is the National Guard coming in? None of the intelligence we received predicted what actually occurred. This is from a former police chief, Stephen A. Sun, who told senators who are investigating security failures related to the attack. He called the riot the worst attack on law enforcement and our democracy that I have seen. Which is interesting. I'm going to leave that right there. Because is that the worst attack on democracy? Or was slavery? But that's a different story. Speaking of the Capitol insurrection, they burned her face? So CNN is reporting that Capitol Police Captain Carnisha Mendoza described the gruesome details of an injury she sustained during the Capitol insurrection on January 6th at a Senate hearing. So at a Senate hearing on Tuesday on the intelligence and security failures of the incident. So she goes on to say that the rioters burned her face and chemicals nearly broke her arm. So they burned her face with the chemicals and then nearly broke her arm at the Capitol building. And I don't know how many of you, I was watching her on the news yesterday, And as soon as she said that, I just thought, you know, we all have imperfections in our skin. And so I just thought that's what I was seeing and you could tell it was like something, and they looked fresh, right? So if anyone else, if you see any coverage of her, you can see the burns that are still on her face. Once again, which these are the stories that, thankfully, she told that story, because those are stories that we hadn't heard. Somebody said, Kim, leave it right there. That's right, leave it right there. Good morning, Brian. So, well, now is the title of this next one. Truth Out reporting, according to a review of Donald Trump's financial disclosures by the Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, so that acronym is CREW, C-R-E-W. Trump reported at least 1.6 billion with a billion in revenue from outside sources during his presidency. A large portion was from the Trump organization. So it was revenue from the properties, the Mar-a-Lago Hotel, the golf courses in New Jersey, Florida, DC, all of these $620 million in revenue for Trump while he was in office. He visited those properties a combined 399 times, says CREW. In all, Trump visited his properties 547 times over his presidency, CREW found in another report. And of course, they also found information about Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner, who reported between 172 million and 640 million in outside revenue while working for the White House, partially because of Ivanka's financial stake in the Trump Hotel in DC. I'm gonna just take a sip on that. Yeah. We obviously understand that when you are elected president, you have to cut ties with any of your businesses, and you certainly can't use your business for profit while you're the president. It's conflict of interest, right? So, and he's not the first business owner to become president, but he's the first that was like, I'm gonna do what I want to do, and they allowed it. Yeah, who taking a sip? Come take a sip. Everybody with coffee or water or juice, take a sip. I also told Gail I was going to wear my Miss Chancellor robe. I was coming in with my Miss Chancellor robe on this morning, but I opted not to. I thought maybe I'll operate in excellence. What if some of her potential sponsors are tuning in this morning? So, and for you millennials, y'all don't know nothing about that Miss Chancellor. Y'all know that's old school, Young and the Restless. Y'all don't know nothing about her. But in my mind, I said, when I grow up, all my pajamas gonna look like Miss Chancellor's pajamas, because she would just be chilling in her home looking beautiful. So that's why I have a rule about chilling in my home looking beautiful. Okay, so confirmation hearing. The Senate confirmed Linda Thomas Greenfield to be the U.S. ambassador to the UN. Okay, so that's it for the confirmation hearing. Texas recovery. President Biden is planning to travel to Houston on Friday to review the storm recovery in Texas. We are still praying for Texas. I was seeing on the news yesterday, they were saying that, I was looking at bottom line, Trump was and is robbing people blind. Right, well, there's that. Boom. Robbing and stealing and just doing his own thing. But they were saying that for plumbing, they're calling for plumbers from around the country to go and help, because there's like a 4-month waiting list for plumbing. Because think about it, you don't have the heat, your pipes burst, so now you've got this plumbing catastrophe on top of everything else that you've experienced and suffered. We just cannot give enough and pray enough for the people in Texas. Even though to us it's over, and the natural tendency for human behavior is to move on to the next thing, we just have to continue to keep them in our thoughts and our prayers. Jumping ship, are you? Bloomberg reporting the chair of Texas Power Grid operator and 4 other board members have resigned in the wake of the energy crisis that paralyzed the state's electrical system. So you just gonna, okay, just leave in the, okay, like we can't go back, like you're still not accountable for leaders. Let me say this to you: you can resign from an organization, but if something went down during your tenure, during your time there, they are going to come and find you. So you can resign if you want to, but you are still liable for whatever happened on your watch. I'm gonna give you that for free. Okay. Abolish the death penalty. The Washington Post is reporting 2 bills to abolish the death penalty in Virginia won final approval in the state General Assembly on Monday and were headed to Governor Ralph Northam, who is expected to sign them. So, if you understand Virginia, historically, it's one of the nation's most prolific death penalty states. Yes, Lori, running. And so it would become the first in the South to abandon the ultimate punishment, which is important when you understand that the ports for slavery were Louisiana and Virginia. So I appreciate that, Virginia. I'm grateful. I'm not ready to just, bust out sand and dance a jig. I still feel like this is long overdue, and we hope that other states, especially in the South, will follow suit with ending the death penalty. And let me say this, the reason why death penalty, because some of us will say, well, the Bible says an eye for an eye, and but the reason why the death penalty is a challenge, especially for Black and brown people, is because if you go back to systemic racism and you go back to the bias that we know that the research indicates and the statistics show us exists in court cases for Black people, if you know that. So someone who is convicted who may have actually been innocent, because there's a biased jury, there's a biased judge, there's biased attorneys, all of that, or lack of resources, all of that. So someone who's convicted now has a sentence of death, not life in prison without the possibility of parole, but death. So who do you think that affects the most? It's us. And so when you look at our conviction rates, this is a win for us. So for those of you that are advocates for the death penalty, I just ask you to do a little bit of research and understanding how that is killing our people, more so than any other group of people. So, but back to that, that's Demia on her soapbox. I'm coming off. That's right, Mary Jenkins. So the state Senate approved by a vote of 22-16 a House bill that bans execution and establishes a maximum punishment of life in prison without the possibility of parole. This is really big, and we're really grateful for that. So that's definitely a win. Black Lives Matter. The Rochester police officers who suffocated 41-year-old Daniel Prude last year by placing a hood over his head and pressing it down until he was unresponsive will not be charged in his death. I don't even know what to say after that. I mean, what are we supposed to do? Well, I mean, let's all just take a minute and feel it like we feel it. Nope, not charged, Kenya. I'm going to take one more sip and then we can move on. So what you're saying is it doesn't matter what you see, what is proven, what evidence is presented, our lives still don't matter. Interesting. Okay, so the fight continues, and yes, Lori, we have no words. Stay vigilant, people. So I'm going to go back to the Tiger Woods news. So CNN is reporting that Tiger Woods was injured in a single vehicle rollover traffic collision. The Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department said in a statement Tuesday. Woods' vehicle rolled over yesterday morning on the border of Rolling Hills Estates and Rancho Palos Verdes. The Sheriff's Department said his vehicle was traveling northbound on Hawthorne Boulevard at Black Horse Road when it crashed. Woods was transported to a local hospital for injuries. The investigation into the accident is ongoing. And I saw some information this morning that the damage was primarily to his legs, and that they were putting, I believe, rods in his legs. So, I mean, this isn't even about his career. This is about his quality of life. We are grateful that he is still alive, but we just need to pray for Tiger and his body and for healing. So I was very disturbed, very saddened to hear that and to watch it, because it was breaking news. And so watching that and watching that vehicle, and I don't know about many of you, but I always do this thing, and I taught my children to do it too. Whenever I see an accident, you know how we looky-loo, I always pray. I always pray. For every vehicle that I see, I immediately begin to pray, Lord, please sustain life in the name of Jesus, please. And so when I saw that, I went into that mode, and but there was something about it was very traumatic, the images and how long they left them on the screen. And I don't know if any of you saw that, but just the fact that they kept showing the scene, and I know that that's news, and that's, we're supposed to see it. I think there's a part of humanity that says when we do life together, we get in it together. So it's easier to look away. That's the problem with racism, is that people look away from it. So I try to put that in every aspect of my life. And if you're in it, I'm going to get in it with you as a part of humanity. But, Laverne, your mom taught you to do that as well. Yeah, I don't know about anybody else, but just the constant, it was on the screen for 30 minutes, and it was just traumatic for me. I couldn't look at it anymore. Yeah, Jacqueline, you too. Okay. And so Lori says she does the same thing too. So if you don't, anytime, and you know what else I do? When I see haphazard, disrespectful drivers, I do the same thing. Because I witnessed a gentleman on a motorcycle, and he was just so reckless and so crazy. And I was in Toledo at the time, and I was driving, and we got a couple of exits up, and he had passed away. And it was so, we saw him before, it had just happened. And I could see his body laying in the road. It was just so horrifying. And so from that moment on, it doesn't matter, as long as I'm not harmed and my family's not harmed. When I see reckless, I don't, you're such an idiot. I don't go there. I go, Father, in the name of Jesus, cover him, even in his ignorance, cover him or her. So I challenge you to do that, because it's easy to judge, but I don't want that person's mistakes to cost them their life or the life of someone else. So they had it on the screen for a long time. Yes, Lori, they did. Patricia says she's always prayed too. Okay. Oh, I feel like you guys aren't having all the fun that you normally have. I'm sorry. Sorry, guys. I'm sorry. I wanted to be fun. I did. But I'm not Gail. So let's just continue to pray for Tiger. Okay, so it's Wednesday workshop Wednesday, workshop Wednesday. Kind of feel like my Ethel Merman, Wednesday, workshop Wednesday. Okay, so today's topic is going to be messaging. And so these are Gail's notes, and they are from the Center for Progressive Leadership. So I work mostly in a strategic consulting capacity, but one of my clients I work for their PR department. So I do have a lot of knowledge and, I don't know if it's skill, but a lot of work, I'll say, in messaging and strategy around messaging. So number one, make your messaging in your voice or the person's voice you are writing for. GailIsTheBomb.com. YouAreTheDynamite.com. Oh, Jeffrey, that's my boy. You love me. You really love me. That's my Sally Fields Millennials. I know y'all don't know anything about that, but that's Sally Fields when she won the Oscar. And she said, you like me. You really, really like me. Okay. So, make your messaging in your voice. Okay, so not everyone can deliver a script to the camera in a way that seems organic and authentic. Listen, I'm here to tell you. I want to do this whole thing. Like, I want to teach. Oh, it's not my show. Okay, let me stay on script and not offend anyone. Okay, I'm going to just say it. I really would love to do a class with ministers to teach them to not read their notes. And I don't have any one particular minister in mind. It just, as a speaker, we're trained not to even use notes. And you use bullets. And so it just always intrigues me when I see speakers and minister read it, and I'm like, I don't understand that. And I was thinking, like, do they teach that in seminary? Like, I would love to teach people how you just the art of public speaking and how to. I think in seminary they're taught how to put together a message, but not necessarily how to deliver that message, how to scale it down, I would really just. I would love to do that. But anyway, I'm gonna come back here. Not everyone can deliver a message to their representative in a way that is detailed and straight and to the point. A written message should be no longer than 4 paragraphs that clearly tells the heart of the message. You have to believe what it is that you're saying, both verbally and written. What is your key point of the message? So when I'm looking at something, I always go back to what's the point? What is it? Because in human behavior, especially now, people aren't looking at things. And when I'm working, especially with boards and nonprofits, they hate my guts because the first thing I'm doing is ripping your mission and your vision apart. Because it needs to be succinct. It needs to be, what is this? Okay, you're putting your actions in your mission. Your actions don't go on your mission. That's how. What's your what? Your mission is your what. Your vision is your how. And it should be short and succinct. If it's too wordy, you're saying too much. That's Demia. That's not in the notes. Okay. Number 2, feature real people when telling personal stories. So that's really important. So most of you know one of my clients is Lifeline of Ohio. So we deal with organ, eye, and tissue donation. And so we always use personal stories because that's more compelling. It's their message. It's their life. And it's just, there's nothing more powerful than a firsthand account. So reading the notes now, it's far more powerful to hear people tell their stories, deliver the emotional component of the accomplishment than making up a story. Go deep within and tell your story. Tell a story of a friend who died of COVID-19, for example. Talk about the pain. Get people to feel your pain. So they can hear the story. You want people to see that pain. You want people to experience what you're feeling. So true, so true. And I always talk about, you have to take, what are people saying? Yes, tinker. Folk better let the Holy Spirit use them. Right? Preaching without a manuscript is not taught in seminary. Okay. Yeah, and I think, and I've heard some powerful sermons where it's a technique. It's not even about, it isn't even about your message. It's about delivery. And so in any other industry, it's not enough just to have the message. It's the delivery of the message. And so I feel like maybe in some seminaries, they stop short of teaching delivery, right? Because isn't that the most compelling part? It's really not. I challenge that it isn't even as much as what you say. You ever heard somebody and you're like, why do I feel so good? But they ain't really said nothing. But I feel so good because they have a way of reaching to the heart. I always say, if you make a head-to-head connection, you make people think. If you make a heart-to-heart connection, you move people to action. That's a DKO. Please don't be using my words. But it's the truth. If you move people in here, if you reach people here, you'll move them to action. And so good messaging will do that. And you can do that by featuring real stories. Transparency brings liberation too. So if you're speaking, if you're presenting, don't be afraid to share, especially my leaders, don't be afraid to share mistakes that you've made. If you're a trainer, don't be afraid to share when you fell off or what your battles are. People are free from your openness and your willingness. That'll be the morning message. Okay, number 3, never attack. Support your message with fact without attacking. People will not listen or accept what you have to share if you attack. So true, so true. I want to do, oh Lord. So when I'm coaching like executives, you know, I can do things that I can't do with like, we can have candid conversations. So sometimes I do this thing where I'll say, send me some of your emails, and I'll go through and I can pinpoint where in the email it went left. Because the challenge is we use abrasive language and defensive language more often than we realize. And it's attacking. And so people can't hear you and they can't listen. Mary said, my college professor would count the number of ums, having said it too many times equaled a grade loss. Yeah, and he would be coming for me, Mary, because my menopausal brain and my ums, it's so hard because I was trained to not but now y'all gonna be counting my ums for the rest of this time here. So ask your professor, Mary, what do you do for the menopausal brain, for that brain fog? Plus I got COVID brain fog, so what do we do for that? Yes. Now we're gonna count my ums. So you never want to attack. So we just, that's so important in your messaging. And so what example does she give here? Because I would love for you to have an example. Find a way to deliver your message, written or verbal, by using statements and not use statements. Go back to number 2 and tell real stories. Yes, even if I'm posting reflections on social media, I always remove you, because it is instantly it's inflammatory language, and it puts the other person on defense. So I'll say things like we need to watch, even if it's something that I don't struggle with. I still say we, because we're the human race. And so even though I may not be struggling today, I may have in my past. But especially as an orator and as a speaker, I have to really be careful with you. So it's rare that you'll ever hear me say you, if I'm especially on a post. And secret, I don't like when you guys do it. I don't, because it's like I don't want to know you like that. Like, I don't want to know. Some of us have very accusatory language, and it just lacks business savvy. And I don't want to know that. I don't want you to know that about me, and I don't want to know that about you. Like, I want us to be elevated thinkers, and I want us to never attack, because I always go back to this. What's your goal? What's your goal? Any client I'm working with, I always say, what's your goal? Any person I'm working with, if it's conflict, what's your goal? Well, what do you mean? She, said this or said that. What is your goal? Is your goal for change? Because if your goal is for change, so if I'm reflecting on something that happened to me in a social media post, I always say to myself, what's your goal? Is your goal to express your frustration? So you're just going to take your frustration and put it out there in the universe for other people to now wear? Or is your goal to highlight a challenge so that others can modify their behavior? So I just think that that's really important for all of us to remember. What is your goal? I'm about to set it off. I'm about to tell her about herself. For what? What is the goal? What's the goal? Is the goal for reconciliation? So I always start with the goal and work backwards. So we never want to attack. Number 4, pick a message you believe in and stick to it. Know what your message is. Like, I love when Gail kind of, like, those of us that have been on this journey, like, we've seen this journey of her defining what news in motion is, to now there's such succinct messaging about what it is. It's, news with an inspirational message, really bottom line, which is so groundbreaking. Make sure you don't get knocked off your message by rambling. As I rambled, I'm a rambler. Make sure that you understand the power of your message. So, and yes, Lori said this helps in personal relationships. You can put the other person on defense. Absolutely. Absolutely. Listen, my family knows everything, every business principle I've ever learned, I apply it in my family. Every single one. So my mediation skills, anything that I have ever learned that is a skill, that is a best practices transcend. If they work in business, they'll work in your personal life. If they work in your personal life, they'll work in your business. So that is the truth. So I want to talk about okay, so does anyone have any questions quickly? Because I'm trying to get you off here by 8 o'clock. Okay, so Dayton Daily News reportings with the vaccines, more than 2 million Ohioans say they probably or definitely won't get the COVID-19 vaccine, according to a recent census experimental survey. But local health officials say they believe many minds can be changed through education and by hearing from trusted community members. Black Ohioans are far more likely than white ones to say they do not expect to get vaccinated. The survey data show, and Black residents across the Dayton region and state are getting immunized at much lower rates than their white counterparts. Skepticism about the vaccine should recede as doses become more widely available and Ohioans see trusted family members, friends, colleagues, neighbors, and community leaders get vaccinated with little to no side effects, local officials said. So coronavirus numbers in the U.S. confirmed cases, 28, okay, Demia and her math, 28,890,234. Deaths, 514,592. Recovered, 19,192,577. So we celebrate the recovery. So for the win. So Gail has something here for the win. I'm not doing it because I say Gail Dudley for the win. Whoop, whoop. Gail Dudley for the win. And I'm going to tell you why. As we get ready for Women's History Month, when I think about women's history, I think about Gail. So I think about her she's such a women's advocate. You know, she had that Ready magazine and just has always, even before she had a magazine, even before she wrote books, thank you, Mary Jenkins, for putting those stats in there. She always had a heart for women and humanity as a whole. She's very cause-driven. The work that she did with voter registration, and Gail is passionate, and it is not easy to do what she did. Like, she's so much more interactive than I am with this because it's what she's supposed to be doing. I'm just sitting here looking at how my painters need to come out and paint my ceiling because it's filthy. But anyway, but she stays focused, and she's wonderful, and she is dedicated, and for her to get up every morning and do this for us and to be in it for us is just so powerful. And so I say Gail Dudley for the win. So inspirational message is really just, she told me that I could choose it, and I said, well, I'll just see whatever the Lord would have me to say. And I really just want to say to everyone that when Gail asked me yesterday to do it, there was no intrepidation. And typically I am like, I ain't doing, but it was just my delight to help out a friend, someone who would do this for us, who would get up for us every day. It was my delight. And so I want us to think about delighting in serving others, delighting in the task that otherwise would be something that takes us out of our comfort zone, or something that we may not actually want to do. So I just challenge all of you to think about what is it that you would delight in today? What is it that may seem out of your comfort zone, out of your league, something you don't feel like doing? I delight in doing the laundry today. I delight in cooking my daughter breakfast, even though she's 19 and has regressed back to thinking I'm supposed to cook for her every day. But today I will delight in doing that. I delight in serving my friend who couldn't be on the show today. So what is it that you will delight in as it relates to serving others? So I am Demia Candi, filling in for Gail Dudley, and this has been your News in Motion. Make it a great day and go be great. Take care.